creativity, I don't really know. It's such a tough question. And if you have something that's been done a zillion times and you find a way that is completely fresh and different and unexpected, it's like you look at something that's very commonplace and then boom, out of nowhere, you see it in a completely different way. I would say that's, to me, what creativity is. Well, I'm from Kansas City. I grew up having a father who was in the furniture business. His father had a rug company, and then my dad turned it into a family-owned furniture store in Kansas City, Kansas, called Gorman's. Now, my mom was from Berlin, and she escaped the Holocaust and became a fashion model in New York City. She could barely speak English. And the reason I mention it is because I think that my mom's twisting of the language was something that somehow was ingrained in me in terms of what I eventually became. And I had other inspirations. My parents had a friend who was a very well-known artist, Thomas Hart Benton, who I would go over to his house and look at his stuff. Alfred E. Newman, Mad Magazine, as one of the seminal influences, and it was because that irreverent humor, especially how they parodied advertising. And, that kind of stuff was inspirational to me. As a kid, I drew a lot, and I was always thought I would be something in an artistic manner, but I never envisioned myself to be a writer. On Sundays, a lot of the times, the guys would come over from the ad department and spend their Sunday doing ads, and I would kind of look in at them. And I was older then. I was in my teen years and about to go off to college when it really kind of hit me that interesting advertising. And what I didn't really realize was these fuckers were coming over on a Sunday. I didn't really think about it in terms of like, I want to do this for a living. Actually, my dad had a friend who had an ad agency in Kansas City. 2 weeks after I graduated, they got me an interview with Herb Valentine, who was one of the owners. He offered me a job, and he started me off writing captions for the in-house newsletter. So that's how I became a writer. I never thought I would become one, and there are a lot of people who thought I shouldn't. But hey, here I was, I just gotten married. I said, okay, we're going to go to Chicago and look for a job. I landed a job at a first agency in Chicago. NWR basically bought the Rinkwell's creative department. It was honestly the greatest group you could imagine in the creative department. Everybody was talented. And that's where I met Gary Johns. We got handed an assignment for Motorola Auto Sound. And it was, the commercial was a one camera thing where you go through the house and you hear this music, it's getting louder and louder. And then you go outside in the garage, one line of copy that said,
"The best stereo system in the house isn't always in the house. Motorola Auto Sound Systems."
Anyway, I liked working with Gary, and we started working together. And then worked together, when we moved out to LA. I walked in the first day to Shia Day, and it was everybody in every cubicle was a star. And so I was like, oh my God, I'm going to fail big time. So Gary and I had an assignment for Pizza Hut. I had an idea to take old, cowboy just shows and put these subtitles that had to do with Pizza Hut.
E lo sai quanto mi dà lo sceriffo? Il 30% di quello che c'è in quella borsa.
Cosa vuoi dire? Spiegati meglio.
Se avessi veramente intenzione di ucciderti, ho contro di me al 30%. Claro?
Ah.
And they got killed. It never run it. And then Nike came along for the '84 Olympics. Gary and I were driving down the 10 freeway to Santa Monica. Newman's I Love L.A. came on the radio, and I cranked it up, and I said, Gary, listen to this.
Rolling down Imperial Highway, the big nasty red out of my side. Santa Ana winds blowing hot from the north. We were born to ride. From the side bay to the valley, from the west side to the east side, everybody very happy, 'cause the sun is shining all the time. It's like another perfect day. I love LA. We love it.
And I had written like 3 scripts. I'd done one for Carl Lewis, and I had him running and long jumping over the camera. And then I did one with Moses Malone saying,
You ain't got the ball. You can't shoot the ball.
Then Rob Strasser at Nike had matched up Michael Jordan with a shoe that was completely unconventional. And I saw this thing that the NBA had banned the shoe. And I said, oh my God, that's going to make them crazy. They built their whole basketball line around this.
Who says man was not meant to fly?
So I sat down and I wrote a commercial. And I just did a pan from his face, and you hear the pounding of the ball, and go down and reveal the shoes.
On September 15th, Nike created a revolutionary new basketball shoe. On October 18th, the NBA threw them out of the game. Fortunately, the NBA can't stop you from wearing them. Air Jordans from Nike.
Anyway, we'd done the Nike campaign, and I went to my best friend, Sam Shapiro, who had a production company. I said to Sam, hey, I'm going to start a company, and do you want to do it? So I quit. When Gary came back, I told him, we got to do this together. So he said, okay. So we flipped to see who was going to be the first name on the title, and he won, of course, because he always won. The concept of the company wasn't just to direct commercials, it was to write them. So we were going to be sort of an adjunct to the advertising agency, offer them our creative capabilities. And we came up with ads that embodied our philosophy that we were only going to take ads that we really wanted to do, and we were going to reject everything else. And I thought, what can we do to give agencies a reason to want to shoot with us beyond just our talent? And I said, why don't we do an award? There are 3 favorite commercials that we did during the year. We'll have a gold, a silver, and a bronze. We'll do a back scratcher, and we'll mount it on a plaque, and that'll be the award. And it kind of took off. Gary's wife was friends with the girls who had LA Iworks. And he called me up and he said, hey, Iworks want to do an ad. Can you come up with like 3 lines? And then I thought, a face is like a work of art. It deserves a great frame. And I thought, that's it. He loved it. And he did a layout. And Rick Gorman was my cousin. He was, he had shot everybody. Started using, you name Pee Wee Herman, Divine, and they all ran an interview magazine. That's the only place they ran. And then it's still running. Greg put together a book of all the ads. Johns and Gorman films, I did so many commercials. And of course you love every one of them at the time you're doing them.
The amazing Isuzu Trooper 2. Its 4-wheel drive can take you anywhere. In fact, I drove it up here myself.
You're not Dr. Stewart.
No. But I did stay at Holiday Inn Express last night.
Ah, American Express.
Right, no preset spending limit.
Don't I know it?
Let it go.
Carpenter's elbow again?
Yeah.
That's the worst pain there is.
What are you gonna do?
Be nice to your arm. Get the anti-vibe hammer from Stanley.
Mom gonna say goodbye?
She's still up in your room getting used to the idea.
Well, I love you, Dad.
He's gone. What do you think?
Only 9.5 feet. We're gonna need 10 for the hot tub.
Well, this wall's gonna have to come down.
Staples, yeah, we've got that.
For those who never quit. The battery that never quits.
You can see that even from 40 stories, each pin tennis ball bounces to the same height every time. Now we try the same test with our competitor.
Once again, tobacco killed more people than murder, suicide, and illicit drugs combined.
I want to thank all you smokers out there. This one's for you.
This broadcast has been brought to you by Truth, quality providers of, well, the truth.
But the commercials, if I had to pick, the two that I loved the most were a commercial for Bud Light.
Good boy, Piper. You're such a smart dog. So, what can your dog do?
Fergus, Bud Light. Bad dog.
The other campaign that was probably my favorite I did with Jerry Gentile, where it was just totally raw. It had to be real. It won every award in the world, and it was the most fun I ever had as a director.
My angel name is Sam Fernandi Naki. People call me Buddy.
If I had to pick one person to dedicate my career to, who would that be? I'm going to name a couple of people. Michael Aiken. The guy was a total practical joker. He made people crazy. Every word out of his mouth was a pearl of wisdom. The other one I would say would be Joe Settlemeyer.
La Machine is so fast, you have to see it to believe it.
Hey, watch this. You watching?
I'm watching. What am I watching?
Hey, how'd you do that? Magic?
You've both worked hard to establish a wonderful way of life. But what if one of you were no longer in the picture?
He was a genius, a true genius. The third person was my first boss, Herb Valentine at Valentine Radford in Kansas City, because he gave me the room to learn, to be somebody I never thought I could be, to be irreverent, to be a madman, to take no prisoners. He rode me, but he gave me the rein to be who I was, and in the end, he cut me loose and let me fly. I'm a guy who didn't want kids, and I ended up with 4. And I've now figured out how it actually happens, what causes them to come into existence. But having not one of them, the loves of my life are my kids, and I love them all equally, even though my youngest daughter always says, I know I'm your favorite. And I heard a gal on the radio was asking the same thing. The kids always asked, who's the favorite? And she said, I hate you all equally. And I thought, oh my God, why did I come up with that line? That's the best fucking line of a lifetime.